Speaking of game on, Zak Zinter, the Browns' third-round pick, got injured playing Ohio State. Mike Hall Jr., their second-round pick, was the player that rolled up on his leg. Zak Zinter is working out again. He's moving. He should be expected to be ready for the start of training camp. The Browns went defensive line in round 2. They go offensive line in round 3. Earl, what do you think of the selection of Zak Zinter in round 3?
I really like this pick again. I did tweet out that I thought they was going to go linebacker or wide receiver, but they stuck with the, trench play. This is a dude, 3-time All-Big Ten. I think 2 times he was first team, 1 team second, unanimous All-American. My man played 287 pass blocking snaps last season and didn't give up one single sack.
Which is what I love.
Right. Yeah. Andrew Berry talked about the character of this man being not only just the heartbeat, of the offensive line, but the heartbeat of the University of Michigan. And he talked about like the hard hat, lunch pail mentality. To me, this is a dude who fits the DNA of the city of Cleveland, right? I think
agree.
this is a guy that you might be looking at. We love our gritty offensive linemen. Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, Joe Thomas when he was here. That dude, you might be looking at a future captain of the Cleveland Browns when you're talking about Zak Zinter. When you talk about his football IQ, when you talk about his energy, his will to win, just being an anchor of his football team, I was overly impressed with the pass blocking numbers, right? And this is Andrew Berry, I guess, setting up right now to get some future return on investment. And the last 2 years, you've seen the investments in the future of the Browns offensive line so that, again, these guys can be tutored, molded under the current group that's there. And, so you got DeJuan Jones, who we believe is going to be a stud and a star in this league for a long time. Luke Whippler, who still needs to develop. Now you draft this guy, Zak Zinter, right?
A lot of Big Ten feel in there.
Yeah, the wild card in this is Jed Wills and what he'll become. You look at the contract situation of Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller. According to overthecap.com, one makes $12 million this year. The other one has an $11 million cap hit. While going into 2025, they both have $14 million cap hits. Yep. So this is another opportunity to develop a guy now to not really have to use him this year, but more so to get him ready for next year to possibly take over as a starter.
Yeah, I like the pick. He was a consistent All-American. And one thing that you take a look at the way Michigan played, and Jay, you know this, you watch Michigan play and you watch Ohio State play. One of the things that we looked at was Michigan has been physical up front for the last 3-4 years under Harbaugh. And it just goes to show you, they go out there and they beat Ohio State. And Ohio State didn't beat Michigan in a very long time. And what were they doing? Running the football. Yep. And so Maurice Clarett talked about it infamously on this show. And the fact that, they got physical guys up front and run the football, they ran the football well against Alabama. They ran the football against a lot of teams well. So, that pedigree is there. I think this is also a more of an indictment on, I wouldn't say even an indictment, is that they're getting a little old up front. They're older.
Well, that's reality. Yeah, not an indictment. That's the clock's ticking.
You start to see, and we look at it. Bitonio, he's had injury problems. He's been an Iron Man, but he missed some games finally.
Yes.
Wyatt Teller, he was struggling with a calf injury, and I think that you could start to see his power, his run blocking ability kind of wane a little bit. When you saw Teller burst onto the scene, he was getting 2-for-1s. He was cleaning up linebackers, agile, mobile, and he got his deal. But when people talk about this all the time, when you're an offensive lineman, you touch people every down. Ain't no downs off. You touching another grown man in a phone booth with a knife, a butter knife, fighting each other for a whole doggone game, Jay.
Yeah,
so
it wears you down.
It wears you down. And by the way, the Browns ran the ball when they was trying to figure out their identity. They ran the ball more than anybody else. You look at what that toll that took on them. Wills, Conklin, Harris didn't even get on the squad, right? Yeah. And then you look at the two guards. So they got a lot of wear and tear. I think this is a depth piece. And I think this is a guy that if one of the guards go down, you may see him come in and not leave. That's just think about that.
That's the reality.
That's what happened with Ethan Pochich. So
that's right.
That's the way I look at it.
I like the pick a lot. My big concern obviously is the injury. I remember at the time seeing it thinking, wow, that's one of those devastating injuries. they've done their due diligence. I'm sure they, checked into the medicals. They gave him a physical. They looked at everything, and they must feel comfortable in that this was a one-off, and it was fluke. It wasn't like his body just gave up. It was guys get rolled up on all the time. We see it in the NFL every week. Having watched this guy for a couple of years in a row now, particularly every snap when he's playing against Ohio State, but I watched Michigan a lot regardless.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys that jumped off the screen. I remember I said on this show after the Rutgers-Michigan game, I had a conversation with my son who had he coaches at Rutgers, he had run into Rutgers head football coach Greg Schiano. And they were having a conversation, and my son asked, how good is Michigan? He goes, oh, they're going to win it. And Corey was like, wow, that definitive. He goes, oh, they're the best team. Why? Because they're the best team up front on both sides of the ball. And that guy's a big reason why they were the most dominant offensive line. So I think you're right. I think he's a plug-and-play guy. 10 years, you'll think about that position again, at least one of them. So I like it. The health part of it concerns me a little bit, but I'm sure the Browns feel comfortable knowing that he's going to be okay.
I think it's safe to say that if it wasn't for that injury, dude probably would have been a first-round pick.
Oh, there's no question. There's no question he would have been.
So to me, the Browns damn sure got a steal.
Yeah. But they tried that last year with Cedric Tillman. Now, it might just be a year after that injury. Is always looks clunky. And maybe Cedric Tillman in year 2 now removed from the injury jumps off the charts and looks like the first or second rounder he was supposed to be. So you're right. You've got to get value. When you don't have first round picks, you got to draft guys in the second or third round that had first round grades except for injury. Right. And they might have got one in Tillman last year. We don't know. Time will tell. And they might have got one here with Zitner.
He broke his leg. Most times, you talk to orthopedic surgeons, breaks are more resilient, right? If you even guys who have to have a steel rod put in there or something like that, breaks.
It's not like the ACL.
It's not ligaments, right? You know what I'm saying? So, he'll come back fine. And you heard some of the sound talk about he's been working out and doing some workouts and running and stuff, so he'll be ready to go. I think one thing that you also got to look at when you talk about drafting is we put a lot of emphasis on draft. These guys are not finished products. You got to have some development as well. What is your receivers coaches doing? What are your defensive line coaches doing, right? How good can you develop some of these guys, man? Like, you can't just bring somebody in and say they're a finished product. The best teams get 6-round picks and just consistently develop them into, hey, that guy got better and better and better and better. And then all of a sudden, you say, well, who's that guy? And you're like, well, look, we've been working with this dude for 2 years.
I wish Bill was still here.
And he's in Tennessee, and
that's a piece of clay right there.
We're gonna figure out how well Kevin Stefanski put a coaching staff together,
right?
Because now we cannot afford to have a setback, and sometimes it ain't about just the players developing; it's the coaches developing. What are you doing as a coach to get better, right? So all those things are part of getting guys to be a good team. We got a lot of new faces as coaches. I'm actually interested to see what new they bring to the table and what fresh air they bringing in.
Let me ask you guys this before we move on to the rest of their day 3 picks. I know it's early, and I know it's projecting a year out, but we don't expect Zinter to start as a rookie because of Bitonio and Teller.
I wouldn't.
Moving on to 2025, who's he more likely to replace in the starting lineup at that point if the Browns have to make a decision? Teller, who's going to be in some sort of contract situation, or Bitonio?
I would say Teller because
of
33
going on 34.
I would say Teller.
Yeah.
Just a beautiful. It's a
good problem to have, by the way.
It is a good problem to have.
I love sports because the game will tell you who you gonna get replaced by.
Yeah, their play. We'll see.
Father Time will take their body. Will tell them who going. You look. Right now, Teller, Bitonio, we can come out. Bitonio could be a shell of himself.
You never know.
Camp. Never know.
And at that position, you get old fast.
Yeah.
Quick.
Like, you see it and you know it. But
at least you got one guy to plug in. Like, they getting the backups ready. Like, you got DeJuan Jones. Like Earl said, Whippler is a guy you want to see a little bit something from. And so now if one of those guys go down, you're not going to get Haagen-Dazs to put in there.
Haagen-Dazs, I remember him.
I'm like, Arizona now.
Yeah. No, you know what's cool though is I always love when rivals end up as teammates.
Yeah.
And, you got some Buckeyes now on this team. You got some Michigan guys on this team. And it's interesting that, hey.
Did you hear what Andrew Berry said now when he made the call to Zach?
No.
He said, I got one question for you. He said, what's that? He said, can you block Mike Hall Jr.? He said, yeah. He said, well, good. I'm making you a Cleveland Brown.
You're going to block him a lot.
So, these are two dudes who linked up in the trenches all through their collegiate career.
Yeah.
They finna link up in the trenches, come OTAs, training camp, and everything else. So these are good issues to have, right?
They are, yeah.
Let's talk about the rest of the draft class here, guys. But first,